Like, don't like, oh, we're going a little off course. Nah, I can navigate and I'll do the sales. Like, I'll handle everything. Like, you don't worry about it. That's not a very good captain, right? He needs to listen to the crew, and the crew's like, okay, well, there's a leak in the, there's no leak. Fuck, get out of here, right? Like, he has to actually listen to the crew and say, okay, I'm going to take that into consideration to actually take the counsel.
I think that's key, because sometimes, like, even when you just described it, it can sound like you need to trust a man more than you trust yourself, and you can't really say you need to just trust him and just do whatever he says. Like, that's not what you said.
Right.
But the way that you said it is like, you have to trust him more than yourself. And I know where you are going with that, but you didn't fully explain it. And so now, and that is very much the key, though, because a woman will not follow a man's lead if she feels like she just has to do whatever the guy says. Like, even if she trusts him and even if she knows that he'll make the right decision, if she feels like she is no longer even necessary to make decisions, she won't want to be there.
So if she feels like her input is not considered,
valued or like desired.
Exactly.
Because you should desire the input from your partner, regardless.
Right.
Like, even if I'm trusting you to make all the decisions, which is how our relationship goes, I do expect you to value the things that I say to you too. Do I expect you to always do the recommendation I give you? No.
Right.
But I expect you to listen to it and be able to, like, recognize that I said that thing. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think sometimes too, with the people who do it the wrong way, the guys who do it the wrong way, it's like they're not even listening. Like you said, they're like, don't even talk to me. Like, I got this. Where nobody wants to be around somebody who acts that way. And that's man just not, or woman.
It's not a wise person, right? A wise person, even when they're in charge, they take wise counsel.
Right.
And that's also the difference, that I think a lot of men, what they do, again, going on the other side, is they don't just take wise counsel, they become a yes man and do whatever the woman wants them to do. And they think, okay, I'm serving her. And that's not true, because as a man, some of the hard decisions you have to make in leading is you have to say, okay, this is what she wants, but this is what's best for her and our relationship, and I'm going to make this choice. But I've heard what she wants. Because if you can't say no to a woman, then you're not really a leader. You're not a leader in any capacity if you can't say no. You have to be able to say no, and you have to be able to stand on and ultimately make a decision from your judgment while taking into consideration of everyone involved.
And you should explain your decision as well, too. It's not just you heard what she said and this is what's better for her. You need to explain that to her in a way that's also not, I think this is best for you, so that's what's going to happen. Like, it needs to be, if you're making a decision that affects somebody like that, you owe them an explanation on why you came to this conclusion, and not just, I think it's best. Like, even though that is the easy way to explain it, they deserve to know where you came to your conclusion, because they might agree with you.
Right.
But they can't agree with you if you just say, I just decided it because I know that it's the best. That does nothing for somebody. And except further push them into that they think they know what's best for them, because you're not even explaining to them why it's your idea is better and why you're going with it.
Right. And I think, without going too off topic with that and going to the woman's side of how should a woman, which we should probably do an episode on, how should a woman be in a relationship as far as submitting and being led to be someone who's willing to accept that authority, is that the explanation cannot be a justification or an argument, in the sense that if
it should be a lesson.
Right. And even then, the woman might not agree with the man, but then she should still accept what he's saying.
But that matters less if she still doesn't agree, if you explained it.
Exactly.
And it's, like I said, it's about the lesson. It's about the wisdom, like you said. I mean, not everybody's like us and like constantly likes to learn things and grow. But I'm coming from that place because I want to know where you're coming from, because I will agree with you. If you give me a good enough description that I understand and now I'm on your side. And even if I don't, I want to hear your side so I can understand why you don't agree with me.
Right.
So it's all about learning from any experience. So that's why I mentioned like, and also like a woman's not going to take a man seriously who's just like, because I said so. Like that's like a middle school
exactly.
like
that's not,
excuse for why you're doing something.
But let me ask you this question, right? So, because this is really the heart of it, and this is really what defines in my mind whether there is actually that leadership, which is suppose that there's a situation where you have a different opinion on it, and then I go a different way after listening to you, and then I explain to you why I'm going this way, and you still disagree with it, and then I still say, this is what we're going to do. What do you then do?
I would do what you recommended.
And part of that also is that understanding that I may be wrong because I'm a human being. I have faults. I don't always make the right decisions. But part of leadership and having that authority in the house is that you still make the decision and you're still backed up and supported, even if it ends up being wrong and even if you end up making a mistake, because people are going to make mistakes.
But we would have a discussion about that.
Right.
And I know you personally that you would take that into consideration and probably not make that choice again if it was the wrong choice.
And it turned out bad, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the key too, because some people let their ego get a hold of them and they make the wrong choice and they almost try to like sweep it under the rug and try to make it look like they didn't make the wrong choice. You have to own up to it because if you're leading, you have full responsibility and you need to own up when you make a mistake and you get it wrong and you need to do better next time, because if you don't do those things,
then you just,
and if you can't even tell somebody, hey, you know what? You put your trust in me and I was wrong and I'm sorry. If you can't do that, you're also not a leader. You're not like, that is what having full responsibility is. That's what being a leader is. If you lead somebody down the completely wrong way and then just act like, well, it's whatever.
Or it's your
you're
fault.
not going to have people following you anymore.
Yeah, you're going to erode the trust. And that's also the other aspect of it too, is this, because we haven't talked about this, is responsibility. Because again, the captain of the ship, he's responsible for the ship. He's not just responsible for the ship, but you put it good in one of the other episodes where you said if you go into a restaurant and the waitress is a jerk and just is rude and whatever, the person doesn't write the review about the waitress. They write the review about the restaurant, because the owner of the restaurant is responsible because they hired that waitress. They trained that waitress. And so as a man, if your wife does something, let's say you're married and it's not good, it's your fault. You're the one who's responsible. Like maybe it's not, quote, your fault, but you're responsible because you were the one who was in charge. She gave you the authority. Of course, if she rebelled against your authority and that's what happened, then of course you wouldn't be responsible in that case. But if you were the one who made the decision, if you're the one she's choosing to submit to your authority and then something bad happens, whether she goofed or not, it's still your responsibility. Same thing with your children. When your children mess up, you're the one on the hook. The police come to you because you're the one who's responsible for them being the leader and being the man of the house.
I mean, I would say even if your wife rebelled against what you were going to do, that's still your responsibility.
That's a good point.
Something else must have happened.
Or you chose this woman, or you chose
anyway.
to accept this woman who continued to rebel against you and still stay in that relationship.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of, if you have a bad crew, and the crew is doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and you continue to keep that crew, whose fault is it? It's not the crew's fault at that point, right? It's like, so.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard from a woman's perspective. I'm not going to go fully into it. Like, I don't feel like it's hard with you and I because it's something that naturally happened. And I think that's how it should be. That to me feels like it's a natural thing. It's easy to do. So I feel like when you're forcing it, it's harder to maintain and it's harder to, I don't know, continue to have happening. But it is still hard at times when you feel like you have the right solution and someone might not choose that solution. And so I think though that's just human nature, because you could even say that when you make a choice that maybe isn't what I would choose and it let's say it ended up being wrong,
right,
that's still hard for people to deal with, right? So just like doing something and failing or like making a mistake is hard, it's hard to like put your thought out there or your suggestion out there and have someone go with a opposite thing when you feel so passionately about it. So it's like, it's a different dynamic. Like for women, it can be hard at times when you feel like you really know what the proper thing to do is and someone does something different. Like, yes, you want to trust in your husband and you do trust in your husband, and that's why it should go the way that we've been talking about.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like you, from a man's perspective, the hard thing is choosing to go against what someone else maybe gave you the suggestion of, and then doing something and maybe it's wrong and maybe that suggestion was actually the right suggestion. Like that's hard to face too.
It is,
And that's why with the responsibility, like you have to be able to humble yourself and be like, you know what, you were actually right. So next time this situation happens, we'll do this or we'll tweak it and we'll do a mixture of both because maybe that's the right way to do it. Or maybe neither of those are right and you need a whole new perspective.
Yeah.
So I think that's important because guys get really hung up on the power and the control when someone says a man needs to be the authority. And it's way more to it. It's way more intricate. It's not just be the man and boss people around and be aggressive and tell people no and, you know, all these other things that a lot of men think it is. It is, like we've been talking about, it's this leadership that involves all this other things that it's cooperation. It's not, even though you're the one representing everybody, the family unit, it's cooperation as a family unit.
Yeah. You have to have the leader who's making the decision, the man who's ultimately the decision maker. But also, I think I would say though that again, another challenge of leadership as a man is he has to step up and take the leadership, because if he doesn't, then a woman will gladly fill that role, and women are almost programmed to fill that role. They will test the man. They will try to take control of the ship. Like that's, you know, so a man has to not allow that to happen. And that is a test. And if he can't pass that test, then he's not going to be a good leader. Better than perfect, we stand.